I promised you guys I'd make a video about Trayvon Martin today, and I'm going to do it, but I don't think you're going to like the opinion I have very much. But I am going to ask you to bear with me and try to make it to the end of this opinion piece. I'm curious to see what you think. Let's talk about the facts real quick. Trayvon Martin, about 30 days ago, was walking through the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time and got spotted by the neighborhood watch. And he was carrying a bag of Skittles, an Arizona tea, and was wearing a hoodie. And so the neighborhood watch guy thought he was suspicious, didn't belong in the neighborhood. He makes a phone call and calls 911, says there's a kid in the neighborhood, a black kid. I believe under his breath you can hear clearly him calling him a coon, so clearly it's racially motivated. Kid's been racially profiled. And instead of doing what a neighborhood watch guy is supposed to do, which is watch, it's right in the fucking title of the thing, he decides to confront the kid, and somewhere during the confrontation, new evidence says that there was a physical altercation, that apparently Trayvon may have thrown a punch at some point after getting a gun pulled on him or whatever. Anyway, the guy shoots the kid dead. Unarmed kid, unless you count Skittles as a weapon. Shoots the kid dead and isn't arrested for some reason, which I find particularly disturbing because the girl who this last week threw flour on Kim Kardashian on the red carpet, she was arrested on the spot. But the guy who shoots a black kid, he walks free. That's fine. I would have arrested him personally if I were the investigating officer, mostly because I want a psych evaluation. I don't want him taken off the streets to make sure he's not a danger to other people or a danger to himself. Make sure he wasn't going to go home and put a bullet into his brain. But I digress. That's what I would have done. I wasn't the arresting officer. I can't speak for that guy. They decided not to arrest him, and because they decided not to arrest him, there was a public outcry of anger and frustration about the shooting, about the murdering of this kid, and about the way that we all, I believe, agree they've mishandled the investigation. And a lot of people are now wearing hoodies and they're carrying bags of Skittles, and it's trendy right now to be upset. And I have to ask you, if you're upset about this shooting, I have to ask you why. Why does it bother you? And it bothers me, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but I want to know why it bothers you. Ask yourself that question right now. Is it that Trayvon was black? Is it because he was different and he was treated differently by this neighborhood watch guy? Maybe the police are treating the entire investigation differently because the kid was black? Well, that kind of injustice happens every single day. And I want to know where your outrage is then, because there's racially motivated crimes and racial profiling happening at the airport every day, at the police stations every day, happening when cops pull people over. It's happening. People are being treated differently because they act different and look different and sound different. As a nation right now, we're persecuting homosexuals, I guess, for the fun of it, for religious reasons or for whatever reason, because they act differently, and black people have been kept down in this country. Women are getting paid 75 cents on the dollar at the same job that men are getting paid. People are treated differently. I don't know where your outrage has been historically throughout the entirety of my life or your life, when I was being bullied in the high school, or your cousin was being bullied, or that one kid is being bullied in your high school, and you turn a blind eye to it, either because he's black, because he's fat, or because he's short, he's tall, or happens to be a white kid in a black school, or a black kid in a white school, or a green kid in a white school. It doesn't matter. Where's your outrage then? That's what I need to know. Or is it because you abhor violence? You don't like violence very much? You don't like the way it ended with a gunshot through a kid's head? Okay, I don't like violence much either, but you're on a globe right now that is interlocked with wars everywhere, like nations fighting nations for profit and for oil and for money and for religious reasons. And sometimes I think it's just for fun. Where's your outrage there? I don't know. Is it because the media is not telling you to be outraged by that particular crime? Can you only unleash the anger or the frustration about the murders that are happening around you when the media tells you to? Or is it because you don't like the police state we're living in? You don't like the fact that they didn't arrest these guys when occupiers who are protesting in the streets are getting snatched up like criminals, like actual criminals, for standing there exercising their right to free speech, holding a sign that says, "Well, I don't like what's going on in the nation. Please change it." And they're getting arrested left and right, and that doesn't really seem to bother you very much. It doesn't bother you that the war on drugs has with the country that this shooting took place in has a higher incarceration rate than any other nation in the world. That doesn't seem to bother you. So why Trayvon Martin? Why are you putting on your hoodie and taking your picture for Facebook holding a bag of Skittles? Why? And I'm not trying to ask you this to quell your outrage. I'm not trying to extinguish the fire inside you. But I'm going to instead ask you to let that fire burn. Because the shot that killed Trayvon can be one of two things here. It can either be a quiet bang in the night that disturbs a handful of people for a short period of time before we all roll back over and go back to sleep. And then we'll start dreaming about our Xboxes and our PlayStations and our Kim Kardashians and go on about life as general, as it has been. Or it can be the shot that wakes everybody up, gets people out the streets, and realize that there's something wrong here. What's it going to be? Are you going to let this fire, this anger, this frustration, this outrage die out now? Or are you going to be the change you want to see in the world? Are you going to let Trayvon Martin's memory stay in your heart and use that memory and use that anger and use that fire to fuel your desire for change in this world? I have a feeling most of us, it's just going to be the trendy thing. It's going to be the Coney 2012 for March. And then we'll have something else to be outraged about next month. Maybe the new Casey Anthony. Some mother drowns her baby and we'll all cry about it. Instead, why don't you grab a hold of this? And why don't you start making a difference?